EIA data shows that there was a build yet again in crude inventories. Look, let's take a look at the one-day chart, and you can see that initial reaction right after the print. I think the issue here is with traders is there's build in the product, particularly gasoline. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I see this build, but you know, there's such a big macro event going on in crude that these builds and the inventory numbers are important for short-term trading. But I think the much bigger story here is about OPEC and the fact that all the voices in OPEC are speaking in unison. The UAE, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're all saying there's economic slowdown, which is a problem, and that if there's going to be a supply cuts, it's going to have to come outside of OPEC. So I think these numbers, these builds, you're going to see it. You're going to see crude inventories up, and they're not going to stop pumping until they put a lot of pain on some other producers. So
then this stalemate is going to exist for quite a while, because consensus seems to be that they're going to let it play out, shake out a few of the smaller producers who are over-levered, and then once it starts to have a major economic impact, and you're starting to see it with places like Russia and Venezuela, they're starting to feel it, something's going to have to be done, whether it's OPEC or non-OPEC. Either you're going to have to pull back on production or do something with pricing. So what are you thinking? Do you get involved a little bit here, or do you just let this play out before even trying to pick the bottom?
Well, I mean, it's a really good question, right? Because it's a two-part question that's a little bit counterintuitive. When you're Russia or Venezuela and your oil revenues are going down, your first choice is to pump more to try to bring up those dollars to the same amount that you were earning before. So that creates a little oversupply, a little more glut, driving prices down even further. And then depending on how much pain you can take, you're going to have to say, okay, we're going to fall in line. We're all going to try to follow the lead of the biggest player being OPEC, and the biggest player in OPEC being Saudi Arabia. And I don't think that Venezuela and Russia and some of the other producers have fallen in line. And I think OPEC wants to put some real pain on marginal producers or secondary producers that thought they could get oil at 75 bucks a barrel for the next 5, 6, 10 years that have hedged it out. Some of that stuff has to work itself out. And for right now, I just want to sit back. There's just too much volatility in oil right now, and I don't want to bottom pick. I want to see the fundamentals build, and I haven't seen the real pain happen in Canada or in Mexico yet. And once those producers start to come offline or say they're going to cut back production, and then the Saudis say, okay, now we all think that a reasonable price for oil is this, that's what I want to get back involved. Right now, it's just it's good for speculation, but not for investment.
So switching gears, and if we want to talk about somewhere in the energy space to pick, obviously natural gas is going to get a bid here with the extreme cold weather that we're seeing in the Northeast. What are your thoughts here in the short and longer term in terms of a trade in nat gas?
Yeah, nat gas is exactly what you said. It's all about the weather, right? So if it's going to be a cold winter and it kind of keeps going, or if it's a really hot summer, right, people turn on air conditioners and heat. And natural gas is, you know, it's more used, if I can find the right term. It's more important to me than oil for the consumer right now, right? It's a little closer to home, so to speak. So I'm keeping a close eye on that, and it's getting to levels when it might be getting interesting. But the way I'm playing it is a little more sophisticated, selling out of the money puts, betting that if natural gas does go lower, it's not going to go lower by the amount that I think. But remember, they call natural gas the widowmaker, so be careful.
Okay, thanks very much, Luke. We always appreciate the insight.
Thanks for having me.
For The Street in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino.